Les Arabes, ça commence où?
Personne ne sait, mais la plus ancienne attestation, c'est vers 800, 850, je crois, avant Jésus-Christ. Une bataille Karkar en Syrie, où il y avait une coalition de différents petits royaumes de l'époque, parmi lesquels il y avait, je ne me rappelle plus, 500 ou 800 chameliers arabes. Et c'est là qu'on voit le mot arabe pour la première fois pour désigner un peuple du côté de la Syrie-Palestine par là. En somme, chaque tribu jouait le rôle d'une nation, d'un peuple maintenant. C'était une unité. Alors il y avait quelques institutions communes, comme il commence à y en avoir en Europe. La langue était commune pour la plupart, les trois quarts du pays. Ensuite, il y avait la littérature orale, la poésie surtout. Et il y avait ça, il y avait le calendrier. Il y avait une tribu qui était chargée d'établir un calendrier à peu près commun, parce que c'était l'année lunaire, ça variait beaucoup suivant les tribus et tout. Alors bon, on avait fait une règle fixe. Au moins, ça avait l'avantage de fixer la date des foires. Il y avait des tribus tout à fait nomades, puis il y avait des semi-nomades, et il y avait, comme dans toutes les sociétés nomades, il y avait des cités, des villes caravanières. Alors c'était des centres, effectivement, et en général marqués aussi par une implantation religieuse, un temple où on allait en pèlerinage. Alors nous avons le fameux pèlerinage de la Mecque qui dure jusqu'à maintenant, une fois qu'il a été islamisé, le Hajj. Mais nous savons, le Hajj c'est un mot sémitique général, se dit Hag en hébreu, qui veut dire fête, tout simplement.
Except in southern Arabia, these tribes spoke a language recognized everywhere as Arabic, a cousin of Aramaic and Hebrew. But this language, hardly ever written down, had as many dialects as there were tribes. Some of these tribes spilled out to the north of the peninsula and founded two small kingdoms, one a vassal of Byzantium, the other of Persia. These two kingdoms were for a long time prosperous caravan crossroads, making it possible for trade to continue between the two enemy empires, as well as between Central Asia and Northern Europe. But from the 6th century onwards, the terrible war being waged between Byzantium and Persia started the decline of the vassal kingdoms. So intercontinental trade looked for a new base, safe from the war, further south into the Arabic Peninsula. This base was Mecca. Mecca had for centuries been a place of pilgrimage, where many polytheistic tribes would forget their quarrels once a year and worship together the Black Stone. It was a haven of peace and negotiation for the great caravans that made their way there. Mecca underwent a period of sudden prosperity which undermined the values of tribal solidarity as well as the old polytheistic traditions. It was at this juncture that Muhammad made his appearance. Born to a poor branch of one of the great families of Mecca, Muhammad began by managing his wife's flourishing business and thus traveling extensively in various caravans, making enriching encounters which opened his mind to the messages of Judaism and Christianity. His mystic predisposition drove him, whenever he was able, to go off on solitary retreats deep into the desert. One day, in the year 610, when he was 40, in a cave that has now become famous, he was visited by the angel Gabriel, who exhorted him to preach a new religion. Within 10 years, the religion won over many fervent followers among the Prophet's family and friends, but also among the poor and slaves of Mecca, in whom the Prophet's egalitarian message touched a chord. The great notables, whose greed and indifference to the plight of the less well-off was openly criticized by Muhammad, reacted in increasingly violent fashion, harassing the followers of the new religion. In 620, Muhammad had to move to Yathrib, Mecca's rival city, which became Medina, town of the Prophet. There he laid the foundations of a community true to the principles of the new religion. Islam was a pure form of monotheism, without clergy or complex rituals. In this religion, there is no intermediary between the believer and a unique, all-powerful God. Islam thus appeals to each person's personal conscience, bypassing the barriers of family and tribe to unify all as human beings. It quickly won people over, galvanizing their spirits. Muhammad soon felt strong enough to declare war on Mecca. He formed large tribal alliances against it and won over some of Mecca's most noteworthy citizens. He finally conquered the city without waging battle. He died soon afterwards.
Bon, il y a la prophétie, il y a l'islam, et en quelques décennies, quelque chose se met en marche.
Oui.
Et comment penser cette chose, justement, cet élan assez exceptionnel?
Eh bien, c'est assez difficile à trouver l'explication. Alors évidemment, il y a l'explication miraculeuse, celle de l'islam traditionnel. C'était Allah, qui est Dieu, qui a voulu cela. Et il y a d'autres explications d'après les circonstances historiques et la valeur que ça avait pour unifier un certain nombre de tribus autour d'un message commun, de valeurs communes, etc., d'un côté, et puis les personnalités jouent un grand rôle, le génie de celui qui avait lancé ça, c'est-à-dire le prophète Mohammed, Mahomet en français, et qui l'avait fait en plus avec des dons de poète, dans un langage qui avait beaucoup frappé.
The main tribes of the peninsula were now reconciled around a faith which could move mountains and a political organization that was both supple and efficient. They felt an irresistible need for territorial expansion, to spread their new faith, but also to expend an energy and dynamism that they could no longer work out on each other. Thanks to the self-discipline of their troops, to the inspired leadership of their chiefs and the advanced state of decline of the empires they were attacking, they were on all fronts spectacularly victorious. In 636, 4 years after the death of the Prophet, the armies of Islam scored a decisive victory against the troops of Byzantium, and in the following year, 637, inflicted a defeat on the Persians from which they would never recover. In 642, the Persian Empire fell, opening the way to India. Byzantium lost Syria, Palestine, and Egypt, opening the way to North Africa. In 649, Cyprus was occupied, and then Rhodes. Jacques Berck praised the Islam of this time as a system which, in a period of general lassitude, gave the world back its youthfulness. Ardor, audacity, an ability to adapt to unforeseen circumstances, and the enduring will to go even further. These were the qualities possessed by the great chiefs of Islam. But they were also extraordinarily humble, for they were convinced that their victories were merely the expression of the divine will for the spread of Islam. This also explains the extraordinary humility of these chiefs in their relationships with the caliphs, successors to the Prophet. One example is that of Khalid ibn al-Walid. Khalid was called the Sword of Islam by his people because he had never lost a battle. A military genius, whatever the terrain, he was responsible for many of the victories over Persia and Byzantium. Adulated by his men and feeling invincible, he was guilty of several excesses. The Caliph Omar, second successor to the Prophet, took the unprecedented decision of removing his command on the very evening of another resounding victory. What did Khalid do? He obeyed. He handed over his command, went home alone to Medina, and was never heard of again. The new strength that Islam infused into the Arabs was due to both the content and form of the Prophet's message. Islam used the link between supreme divine power and human initiative to incite the believer to action. He had a destiny to fulfill on earth. The Prophet's message was couched in a language that impressed one and all with the power and flow of its inspiration and the supreme spellbinding density of its power of expression. This orally transmitted message began to spread after the Prophet's death by friends and other witnesses. Some of these had learned the text by heart. Some had transcribed passages on pieces of leather, palm tree leaves, or bones. Different versions started to circulate, and the unity of the message was threatened, even more so since there were no fixed rules of spelling and grammar for Arabic at that time. So the Caliph Osman made the crucial decision to fix, once and for all, in writing, the official unified version of the revelation, the Quran.